want to welcome all of you to the program today. Our special guest today is Becky Specht. She's from Sherrill, Iowa. And so, Rebecca, thank you so much for being on our program today. And I think it's really something that's very special, and what a great accomplishment that she was able to do, and that she featured a story on a lady by the name of Opal Christensen. And she did a documentary for which we will be showing later in our program today on this person, and actually won an award from her documentary movie. And so anyway, Becky, I just wanted to say welcome to the program, and I think it's really interesting what you did, what a talented person you are to be able to do a documentary of a person that you have known for quite some time.
Thank you. It was a very wonderful honor and privilege to be able to spend time with Opal, and just to be able to come into her life and her family's lives, and to shoot in her home, and to really get to know her history and the things that she holds dear and the things that she has passion for, and just to spend some more time with who I think is such a great lady.
Yeah. So Opal was a person who, or is a person who, lives in your community then, where you live in Sherrill. And so is that kind of how you got to know her then? How did you cross paths initially? How did you get to know her?
Yeah, I met Opal through church. I had moved back to Dubuque back in 2002, and God led us to the United Methodist Church in Sherrill, which Opal has been a member of for a very long time, and her family goes there too, and she plays the organ there, and she's just such a godly lady, that she was one of my mentors, and just somebody who encouraged me and my family, and just really loved us and tried to help us, provide for us, and she's just such a wonderful lady. A great example for me and my kids.
Yeah, well, you are an example of how important it is to have mentors in your life, and how they can make a difference in your life, and how your life goes one way or another. But this would be an example where here's a Christian lady who, in a lot of love, took the time to spend with you.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, and so obviously this is a testimony of a person who, without any doubt in your mind, you can see that God is working in and through her life, and how God has touched your life through her life. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, and so then, you got to know Opal through church. She organist at the church, but also, just in the way that she lives her life and demonstrates her life to others, that obviously is very attractive to you. I mean, not only in the way that she lived her life, but she also has made an impact on your life, to the point where, how did you come about to make a movie about her?
I was teaching art at Wallert at the time, and sometimes part of teaching art, we're given also video production, and so I was teaching video production as well. I was teaching it at a school in Minnesota that I was at, self-taught. So my skills weren't quite as sharp as I wanted them to be, and especially with the new technology that was coming. I was doing linear editing when the students were experimenting with digital editing on computers, and they were just getting way ahead of me. So I thought I should take a class, and Craig Schaefer at Loras College has a video field production class that I was able to take, and it was in the fall semester 2007. It was just a very challenging but wonderful experience, and as our final project, we had to do either a documentary or a film or tell some kind of a story it was our choice what we wanted to do, and I chose Opal, just because I think her story needed to be told. In Cheryl, there are, and at Grandview, at Cheryl at the United Methodist Church, there are so many wonderful Christians, so many wonderful ladies and men, that their stories, I think, just need to be told. And Opal allowed me to tell her story, so that's what I did, and I hope I did her justice in doing that.
Well, obviously, I guess the critics would say that you did a good job because you did win a rather prestigious award here, didn't you, for your work in interviewing Opal and having this documentary? Yeah, so...
I did, yeah. That was a surprise to me. In 2009, Craig Schaefer submitted my video for the Iowa Motion Picture Awards, and we ended up winning, and I was really shocked. Opal is a very humble lady, and she really didn't want me to show the video, so I didn't. I just made it for class, and that was all I did with it. But Craig submitted it, and it won an award. And then even after that, I didn't show it because that's what she wanted. But now she is, she's okay with it being shown. And yeah, it was a really neat experience that other people were watching it and really being impacted by that, by who Opal is, and by the way it was shot and the way it was put together and edited, and I am really proud of the way it turned out. It was totally, I think it was all God in the way that the story came together, and I give him all the credit for that.
Yeah, to God be the glory.
Yeah.
We're giving you the giftedness and and also the courage and the fortitude to do such a production. And so we will be showing the documentary here shortly, but maybe just a little bit of an introduction. When you think about one of the most precious passages in the Bible that I hear people talk about is from John chapter 14, where Jesus says, "Let not your hearts be troubled. Believe in God, believe also in me. For in my Father's house there are many rooms, and I go and prepare a place for you." I think that there's something special about a house that is made into our homes. And when you think about a house, you think about a foundation, you think about the security, the comfort, the love that is there. And so as you, in this documentary, why don't you just share a little bit about the connectedness that maybe that Opal has had with her house or her home? Yeah.
Opal was born in the same house that she still lives in now. They were gone just for a very short time from that house, her and her husband, but they came back and they raised their 8 children there, and she still lives in that house today with her daughter Cindy. And her grandmother built the house in 1900. It's a very special place for her house and her land, and they still work the land. And the way that the video kind of took shape was that Opal would talk about her house as a very precious thing, from the foundation of the house being a very strong foundation, and all of the love and the history, and even the furnishings, that that the furnishings belong there from her history, and that if they were gone for a time, that they would come home. So it's definitely a very it's a very special place for her where the things in her house are so much a part of her, and she's so much a part of her house.
Mm-hmm.
And as I was interviewing her family, her son Mel, her daughter Cindy, and her grandson Kurt, they were all talking about their mother and their grandmother, Opal, in kind of the same language she was using to talk about her house.
Mm-hmm.
Strong foundation, where they would come back home. This is where they belong. That it was just happy times for them, and they were all together, and it's just about family and history, and just being together on that property that that they knew so well, and that was such a part of them. So I started to kind of formulate the theme of the video around that, that they're talking about Opal in the same way she talks about her house. So I called it "The Woman is the House," because that they were such an integral part of each other.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah, that is really something to see how that all intertwines, that you have this beautiful house, but really what makes the house really is the person and the people. And it sounds like the roots of Opal and her family go very deep and are very strong there. And so, yeah, and so this documentary is one that will definitely, make us all think, and to reflect upon a special person's life, but but God's desire that we dwell in His house, and God's desire that He dwells in all of our homes, that we all have homes that have got firm foundations and where there's a lot of love and comfort. But we certainly are very much looking forward to now seeing this documentary. And so, well, I think people just really like personal interest stories. I really do. To see how God is working in the lives of people, and how we can relate to that, and how that strengthens our faith, and what we learn, and how we grow. And so when you mention about the people of your church back in Sherrill, Iowa, it sounds like you could probably do a lot of documentaries, maybe get the whole church documented there. And
I definitely could if they would let me.
Yeah, well, you just never know. But today we're going to focus on Opal Christensen, and it just sounds like she's really a delightful lady, and obviously a person that you've been blessed to get to know. And so I think we all now are going to be blessed in watching this wonderful documentary that Rebecca Specht has done in relationship to a very special person, Opal Christensen. And so at this time, we're going to watch the movie that Rebecca has produced.
Whenever I tell people that I live in the house where I was born, they are just amazed. I suppose it's unusual in this day and age when families are constantly moving. Actually, it seems just normal to me. It's just like reading a book from beginning to end, I guess, to have lived in one place. And it's taken me a long time to realize how special this is. How many people are there that live in the house where they were born? My grandmother, Albrecht Hefner, built the house in 1900, the same year that Grandpa Hefner died. Everything is so strong. It just has a strength through it. Down the cellar, those huge big slabs of stone that are used for the foundation. We've never had a storm yet that hurt the house.
My grandma is an exceptional, special woman. She's always had inner strength. She's always kind of been like a solid foundation, keeping everything calm and together.
The bedrooms belonged to my parents and brothers and then to my own children. And now when the grandchildren come home and they live and sleep in these same rooms, just has a feeling, a comfort, a peace to it.
It was always nice to have Grandma. She was always there, like she still is today, helping, doing whatever she can, just to keep the peace.
The kitchens are special. That was the place where the family always met. That's where the stove was, so it was a warm spot that everybody kind of liked to stand around the stove to be warm in the winter when it was cold. That's where I would bathe the babies all the time because it was warm, and then they were ready to be nursed and put to sleep in the basket and by the stove.
To be able to sit around a wood-burning stove, it's not something you can do at too many other houses anymore.
Myself and many of ancestor leaned against that stove in the winter for warmth. And also just the smells from the kitchen, the baking, and having the meals there. And we generally ate as a family. So that was a time of instruction and maybe a reprimand once in a while, and also the camaraderie of the siblings and the parents.
Kitchen's the main room. When I come in from outside, that's where I go because Mom's got dinner on the table or supper on the table, and in the winter it's warm there, and in the summer it's usually cool.
The house has a warm, welcome feeling to it, and I think that is based upon the fact that that's the way Grandma, Grandpa, that's the way they raised their family, welcomed people, whether it was family or guests.
I have 8 children. The oldest one is Daryl. Tina, the next one, is the oldest of the daughters. Next one is Mel. Next one is Juanita. David. After David was Mark, and he's deceased. He died of diabetes because he was living alone, had nobody to help him. Next one is Cindy. Next is Evan. Then the youngest, Paul.
8 or 9 kids were in here most of the time when I was growing up, so it was a full house. You didn't get your own room.
Now the kids all look forward to coming back home from wherever they've gone to, who knows, all across the U.S., but it's still coming back home for them too.
The kids can come back to visit and bring as many friends or family or relatives as they need, and there's always a place for them either in one of the rooms or spread out on the living room carpet.
A lot of the items around here have probably been passed down from generation to generation, so that makes things more important and sentimental.
She started in this house when she was first married, lived in it for a short time with her parents, and then they bought another house and moved out. It's not like when a couple moves out today, they take everything with them, and just about all the other things that are historical significance from the Hafner side were just left on the place or in the house for the next succeeding generation to utilize.
So many pieces have the old cane rocking chair that belonged to my grandmother, the couch and the big armchair in there were wedding gifts of my parents. Of course, the china closet, that was gone for a while too after my parents left and built their own home, and that came back home again. It's kind of special. Even little kettles out of Mama's pantry that she had used came back home, and they're just so many things like that. This is where the piano always was when I was growing up as a little girl, until Mom and Dad moved to their new home. They took the piano with them, and so it was gone for probably about 20, 25 years. Then after Mama Dad had died and Mama died, then the piano came back home. That dresser was not always in this house. It came from one of my aunts, and it had belonged to my grandmother, Pedersen. It was given to her as a wedding gift in 1869, I believe, and at that time they had paid $35 for it. This is all written on the bottom of one of the little drawers that is in the dresser.
I kind of felt like it belonged in the family, and being it had that history with it, that some strangers shouldn't have it. The table that Grandpa used, that he sat at when he was a boy, I mean, it's pretty awesome to think that that's the table that my grandpa sat at when he was a boy, or the dresser that, you know, his sister used way back in the 1860s, and it's still here.
I guess I feel they belong here because this is probably the last place that is part of the original Pedersen family, and the only place that they can really come to be meaningful to us. And my children now are beginning to understand how much these things mean. So I'm just really happy to have them be a part of my house, and as long as I'm still here, and then my children can take them to their homes and tell the history of them. My training growing up with my parents in the church, maybe that's why that God has given me these children, and they are the most important thing in my life, I guess, right now. I'm concerned about each one of them and their spouses and the grandkids, because I feel that that's my task, and I'm here where God wants me to be.
She was just a perfect example. Growing up, that one thing that really stuck in my mind, that I did not even know what gossip was, because I never heard it. Never heard it.
Mom was always there for us kids and would try to do whatever she felt would help any situation, and to also provide good guidance during our formative years and help give us a springboard for our own lives later on.
I guess having a strong foundation like we do under this house that Grandma built. What else can you be but strong too? The house, the ancestors, the faith, the children, the grandchildren, the great-grandchildren. They're each one precious. This is a special corner of the whole world to have been here all this time, and I don't know what the future holds. I don't know what tomorrow holds, but I'd like to think I could stay here and die here too.
Most people move once or twice or several times in their life, and we all got to stay in the same place for, well, our whole lives. I guess we kind of feel like we belong here.
When I go away for a while, I guess everybody says, oh, it's so good to come home, but to me it's more than that. It's the place where I belong.